Hi, Mindless Insanity 602 reporting to you with day number 15 of my 31 days of horror film reviews. And that means that we're halfway done with this year's 31 days of horror film reviews. And I technically record these during night, usually for a few minutes before the actual date. Like I know that this one's probably going to be a long one. I'm filming this at 11:31. Usually I record these at a like a few minutes before the actual date begins, but still I still count it. And I usually watch the film for referential purposes next day's film after I'm done recording the reviews for the next day or whatever. And since I know that this particular one's going to be a long one, I'm just doing it this time. And this is going to be of Creepshow, which is a 1982 R-rated 120-minute comedy horror film from director George A. Romero. Now, Creepshow is a film where basically George A. Romero collaborated with Stephen King. If you're a big horror fan, you pretty much have heard of George A. Romero or Stephen King at least a few times, it's not a requirement. It's not a requirement. There's really no requirements to be a horror fan other than legitimately enjoying a great deal of horror films. A great deal of horror films. There's really no requirements to being a horror fan other than enjoying a great deal of them. Now, you pretty much have heard of those two and at least liked some of their stuff. If you heard of George A. Romero, then you pretty much have you must have pretty much seen or heard of A Night of the Living Dead, Dawn of the Dead, Day of the Dead, any of those Dead films, the original trilogy. The ones that came out post the original trilogy are a little bit obscure, but you most likely have heard about the first of the Dead films, not of his other works, but you pretty much mainly Night and Dawn. Day is a little bit on the obscure side, but you have heard of them. As for Stephen King, you pretty much have seen Carrie, Christine, The Mist, a whole bunch of things. If you Stephen King, so they created Creepshow. Those two alleged horror icons. I'm not really huge on George A. Romero. I'm not really huge on George A. Romero stuff. I like Dawn and Day and Land. Some of the of the Dead stuff I've seen, I don't really have much of an opinion on it. Like some Stephen King stuff, just like any person, there's a few duds. So they're alleged horror icons, and they collaborated to make Creepshow, which is an anthology film. And Creepshow starts out with Tom Atkins. Tom Atkins being this assertive douchey father to nonetheless a kid played by Stephen King's own flesh and blood. That kid is Stephen King's own flesh and blood. And basically, this kid has he's a huge horror film fan. He's a huge horror fan. He has like a Dracula poster. He has a pretty cool fucking room, if you ask me. So he, he's a big horror fan. He got his father threw away his Creepshow magazine. He got pissed. Then we get inserted to um, the first of one, two, three, five short stories. The first story is about this another father story, and this father story is about this guy whose daughter killed him on Father's Day nonetheless, because she just got pissed off at his demands, pissed off at him being a demanding motherfucker, and killing somebody that she cared. I think it's a really unclear to me. It's really unclear to me, but I think that he put out a hit on somebody that he cared for, and she just got fed up, and he says, "Where's my cake?" And then she got the back of an ashtray, and broke it over the fucker's skull, and he passed out, and then many years later, they have this very rich yuppie family. This very rich yuppie family has this annual, just like my 31 Days of Horror Film reviews in October, annual get together. An annual get together at the residence, and one of them is played by Ed Harris. And his girlfriend in this particular thing is fucking gorgeous. She's fucking gorgeous. And then you have her like weird brother. Her brother's tight. Yuppie. The mother is a part, or whatever the hell she is a weak part. And they have a maid, and Bedelia comes and overhears some of them, gets drunk and just gets pissed off and disrespects the corpse, the grave of her father, which lets him out, and after he's let out, he goes out on a mockery. He says, "Where's my cake?" And one questionable scene, it doesn't really make sense to me, is Ed Harris's death. Ed Harris was like just standing and laying in the fucking where the coffin was, and not even fucking moving. I was like, what the fuck, dude? What the fuck, dude? You saw this big tombstone, this big fucking tombstone is about to fall on your skull, and potentially kill you. I think my first thing would be to get the fuck up and not be like startled. I get my closest thing of a defense to that scene. My closest thing of a defense to that scene is probably the father figure, the big ghost or whatever, had some like force that withhold him, but whatever. Then you have the typical like stuff with them being out and about. And then, they get to see the father come out and have the head, and like, if you go and if you hear any reviews of this movie, this is pretty much one of the weaker segments of the film, in most fans' opinion. I agree, but I don't. I like it a little bit. I think that's decently made. It works well. It works well as a beginning piece. It works well as a beginning piece to the whole Creepshows, this whole entire anthology film. Now, then we get to yeah, then we yeah, it's just a good it says the beginning is slow. Then we get to the second segment, which is my favorite segment, which is called The Lonesome Death of Jody Verrill. The Lonesome Death of Jody Verrill is my favorite segment out of this film, and my favorite segment out of the whole entire Creepshow franchise. In all honesty, I love the Lonesome Death of Jody Verrill. It has a proper amount of wackiness, and entertainment. It fits in well with the overall tone of this film the best. So basically, the Lonesome Death of Jody Verrill has Stephen King himself playing Jody Verrill, and Jody Verrill is this lonesome fucking farm guy who happens to notice a meteor falling down, and he keeps on having these flashbacks about this goofy doctor, or if he's a doctor in one flashback, and he's a potential investor in one thing. It's funny. I like that. And then you get some crazy shit. Like he says, we're gonna cut this sucker off when he comes in. That's pretty funny. And then get to see the Jody Verrill become like a big marijuana looking thing. It looks like a big marijuana leaf nug in that one scene. And Jody Verrill is I like it. It has it's a weird feeling to it, but overall, I enjoy it the most. And I really enjoyed the contrast of Stephen King, which is usually a darker, serious person, going for the more comedic story, and then you get Leslie Nelson in the third story, which is more known for comedic films, most notably the Naked Gun films. And he basically plays this rich guy who um property and he digs this guy's corpse, and by I forgot I fucking the first shit Ted Danson. Yeah, we get Ted Danson's corpse, and I like what they did. I like that they made a reversal of the whole scenario, where he starts out to be an evil bastard, but then these um, technically Jason Voorhees pre-zombie Jason Voorhees couple that he drowns comes back and attacks him. I like the setting. I enjoy Leslie Nelson's performance in it. And I overall think that the idea with the televisions and stuff that he uses to intimidate the people is pretty creative. I enjoyed this this segment as well. I think that's a good segment of the film. Then we get to the fourth segment, which is called The Crate. Now, The Crate, in my opinion, The Crate is just basically about this most bitchiest of women, played by Adrienne Barbeau, who just picks on her husband, it's just really fucking awful to him, and she treats him like shit. He has this fantasies to kill her, and then he has this one friend who happens to go through an experience of this crate, which contains a poorly looking creature, and this poorly looking creature kills the guy, kills the janitor, and then then he goes insane, gets to the guy, And then the guy comes back and gets his wife to be killed by the thing, which is probably the most satisfying death that you've ever seen in a film, because she's very much of a bitch in this film, and it was pretty satisfying to see her go, bit the bullet. And then, you know, he kills the creature by putting it in water, and after he puts it in water, drowns it, he returns, and then they get their big happy thing with what if it gets out, and that's pretty good. And then, you know, I enjoy that segment as well. And then you get to the final segment of it, which is I forgot the name of it. Oh, They're Creeping Up on You, which features this guy who's a bit of a recluse, who owns his business. He says one of the most cockiest lines to the people. He says one of the cockiest lines to people, like, what are you doing calling my number? You don't call me on Saturday. Uh, then his family has struggling, and it was pretty funny. He says some funny, cruel shit. Then he has this, like, problems with bugs. He detests bugs, and the bugs keep on creeping up on him. And the only weak portion of this is when the bugs start to come out of his body near the end. I'm like, that looks pretty bad. And I'm not really a big fan of the way that looks. It looks pretty awful. And then we get to the epilogue of the whole thing, which is returning to the portion where the kid is, and then you see Tom Savini and this trash can guy collecting trash, and after they're collecting trash, they find a Creepshow magazine, and they find out that there's no sticker or whatever. Then we get to see the son gets a voodoo doll, and stabs it in the neck, and it does that. And overall, Creepshow is a great movie. I like all the segments. I think that they're all pretty much unique. If I were to rank them from my favorite to least favorite, you know, you already know my favorite, The Lonesome Death of Jody Verrill. The Lonesome Death of Jody Verrill is pretty much a class act. You can't go wrong with The Lonesome Death of Jody Verrill. Then after The Lonesome Death of Jody Verrill, probably be Something to Tide You Over. You know, the Leslie Nelson and Ted Danson segment. Then you get to I like the Father's Day segment in the first as a third favorite. Fourth favorite would probably be the Crate. I'm not really huge on the Crate, but the Crate is. I like the Crate. Don't get me wrong, but it's not a favorite of mine. And then you get to see, they're creeping up on you. That's my least favorite segment. But all in all, I enjoy every segment. I enjoy the wraparound segment too. Overall, I like Creepshow. The Blu-ray release is pretty good. It's bare bones. It's Universal. It's Warner Brothers, actually. And Warner Brothers, this pretty much is. I doubt that Warner Brothers would license this title out to Scream Factory, so I can retire this release, and pick that up, and they'll probably do a great job, but doubtful of that. So I have to put up with this. And this is the picture quality is good. But I'm doubtful that Warner Brothers would, you know, go back and say, I think Creepshow needs a special edition release. Yeah, you just get the disc and it's bare bones, but whatever. But I like Creepshow. Let's briefly talk about Creepshow 2. the Creepshow is a higher budget film, so setting aside the bare bones release of its Blu-ray release, the bare bones style of its release, it goes nowhere near as bad as um, Creepshow 2's bare bones release. Now, Creepshow 2 is a very much of a cheaper looking film. It came out like about 5 or 6 years after Creepshow, 5 or 6 years after Creepshow, and it's not directed by George A. Romero. It's directed by Michael Gornick, one of the various frequent production crew members of George A. Romero films, and it's just it's I like Creepshow too, but you could definitely tell that you could definitely feel the cheaper nature of it. You could definitely see that you could definitely feel that Creepshow 2 is a lot cheaper. Um, so we get to Creepshow 2. Now the film has a more dumber, if you ask me, is a little bit more dumber of a wraparound segment. Whereas Creepshow 1 wraparound segment, I try to judge things on their own merits. I like the wraparound segment, basically the introductions, and epilogues that this whole entire wraparound segment has, but it doesn't compete with the simple but eloquent nature of the Creepshow 1 wraparound segment. But basically, this one is that you get a poor makeup version of like Tom Savini in what's supposed to look like the Creep. It's supposed to be the Creep, I guess. And he sees this boy, and then we get transferred into some poor animation. This animation's pretty poor, and then you get on some terrible dialogue, terrible like Crypt Keeper dialogue, and basically the film goes from that, and then you get the first story. This is only 3 as compared to the 5 that's in part 1. The first story is called Old Chief Woodenhead. I love Old Chief Woodenhead. It's a really great deal of fun. Basically, it's a story about this old struggling couple in this dying town. Dying town gets some jewels. I think that's like collateral from this Indian dude. I really forgot. It's been a while. Seen Creepshow 1 last night. Haven't really done a refresher review. I'm just doing this as like a bonus thing. It's not the official thing, which I will do. So basically, the Creepshow 2, you have him who does a collateral. Then the Indian guy's cousin or son comes with his gang, and they're funny. They're funny gangs. They're despicable but funny. One thing that kind of bugs me is that there's a clearly visible Creepshow magazines in one scene, and I'm like, okay, that's a little bit too much for me. I don't really fucking care for that one much. That portion of it, but overall you have that, and then after you have that, you see they kill the couple. Then this chief model wakes up and puts paint and starts to kill all the criminals in creative fashion. The chubby fucker who they pick on, who lives in a disgusting ass trailer, who drinks beer cans, is filthy as fuck. He lives there, and and after he lives there, and it's filthy and disgusting. He gets killed off, and it's pretty much he's the most innocent one out of the bunch, but he's still a criminal and still a scumbag. Then you see the 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 preppy boy dies, and that plays. Then the Indian guy, who's related to that other Indian guy, who has this very hair fashion, who says, "I'm like, this hair's gonna get me paid and laid, motherfucker, paid and laid," and that's on that portion. And then the old Chief Windhead, it's vague if he killed the guy, most likely scalps him, scalps his hair, and after that, you get that segment, and that it's pretty solid. It has its problems. Definitely not a class act like any of the Creepshow segments here, but it's a fun one. It's entertaining. Then you get the wraparound segment, and then you get the wraparound segment introduces these bullies, and this bully trio, which are pretty much fucking stock bullies. Really is that's pretty much the fucking that's horrible. I really don't care for that scene. It seems a little bit too much. But then you get to the second segment, which just like Creepshow 1, the second segment is my favorite out of the bunch. Basically, you get this group of teenagers, who are gonna go out to this. I wouldn't swim in this lake. This lake doesn't look appealing, but it's cold. They go to this lake and they plan on, just hanging out there, smoking some doobies, and after smoking some doobies, hanging out on this raft. And I like all the characters. The main two boys have this like little thing. Siskel, are you sober? And then this big oil slick comes, and I like the oil slick. The oil slick just totally gruesomely attacks the people, and I like that. I like that the more slutty they broke the norms of horror films, where the innocent one, shy, reserved, innocent one dies first, and the slutty, bitchy one lives. I like that they break the rules, and then you get this guy who's a bit of a creep once because they're out on their dock. He's becoming horny, and then he starts to grab her while she's sleeping, and then she dies, and then the story ends. The story ends with him swimming out, and then he says, "I beat you," and then he gets eaten by the whale slick. Which is pretty much I like. That's my favorite segment out of Creepshow 2. It's nowhere as awesome as Jody Verrill, but it's pretty good. And after you get that scene, you get the terrible wraparound segment. We return to that, and then we get to the third segment, which is pretty much ripped off by the last segment of the unofficial bullshit Creepshow 3. So, which is about this girl. It's weak, but I like it. I don't really. It's weak. It's the weakest one. But I enjoy it. Basically, it's about this girl who cheats on her husband. She's a rich girl, and she accidentally runs over this hitchhiker. Hitchhiker attacks her and chases her around, and says, "May I have a ride, lady?" And that's pretty much it. Um, it's a decent one. Then you get the wraparound segment, which has has the bullies getting eat up by these I forgot what they're called, but that's pretty much Creepshow 2 in a nutshell. That's pretty much Creepshow 2 in a nutshell. I like Creepshow 2. The Blu-ray release looks nice, but the disc menu's pretty cheap. Um, but it's understandably so, because Creepshow is definitely 2 is an inferior film to Creepshow. Now, it sucks that these are the only two legitimate Creepshow films that we have. There's one movie called Tales from the Dark Side of the Movie, which I have seen. I like that movie. If you ask me, that's almost to the quality of Creepshow. It's way better than Creepshow 2, if you ask me. But to me, that's the real Creepshow 3. Like any other fan of the Creepshow franchise. Then you have the James Doodleson and Anna Clavell Creepshow 3, which is was made due to the common mess up of George A. Romero's uh, failing to get a proper copyright. And so that's what led to them making a bastardization of Day of the Dead 2. And I've seen Creepshow 3 is awful. I think I would put that amongst the 5 worst films I have ever seen. Um, so if you ask me, we got Creepshow 1 here, then you got Creepshow 2 here, and then you have Tales from the Dark Side of the Movie, which is Creepshow 3, and Trick or Treat would be Creepshow 4. I like all the segments of Trick or Treat. That's a good movie. I probably might review that in one of the next years of 31 Days of Horror Film Reviews. Overall, I love both Creepshow 1 and 2. I think that both are pretty solid films. Um, I wish for them to make a official Creepshow 3. Hope that like I don't really care for VHS. VHS is like another recent anthology film. They like spawned off like two other films, and VHS is not very good. I really don't care for VHS. I hate all of the installments of all the VHS movies. There's ABCs of Death, which is awful. Those are cruddy films, and that is like 2 parts. I wish for you to get like some other talents. Like it would be nice if like would have been super sweet if Wes Craven was still alive. Wes Craven was still alive, and you have Wes Craven, you have John Carpenter, Wes Craven, John Carpenter, probably like Dario Argento, Dario Argento, um, um, maybe have Eli Roth. I don't know. Uh, uh, James Wan. Like you have like some of the old like John Carpenter, Wes Craven on there directing 2 segments, old school directors, old school horror classic directors, and then get like 2 new ones like Eli Roth and James Wan doing their 2. But unfortunately, Wes Craven's not alive. Yeah, but that would have been really sweet to see him do that, and I would have loved that. I would have loved just to see a theatrically released horror anthology film in the same vein as Creepshow. That'd be pretty legit. It would be pretty legit. I don't want to see any of these like direct to video shitty movies like VHS. I'm sick of the VHS movies. I'm sick of the ABCs of Death movies. All of those movies are bad. I want to see some talented directors to make a theatrically released um horror anthology film in the same vein as Creepshow. Not like found footage or whatever. But I would like that. But unfortunately, that's not gonna happen because this modern horror audiences will eat up whatever garbage you give them. Like they ate up the Saw movies, then they got tired of the Saw movies, then they're eating up the Paranormal Activity films, and then the Paranormal Activities or films are almost digested out of their way, and they're probably going to find something that's going to be amazing for a little while, and then it's probably going to die off and rinse and repeat. All of that shit. I don't know. But I'll stick with Creepshow 1 and 2. Great movies. Yeah, I like them. Anyways, thank you guys for watching. This has been day number 15 of my 31 days of horror film reviews. And that means that we have 16 more reviews to go. And I hope that you like this video. I hope that you like the other 14 that came before it. And I hope that you enjoyed the other 16 that comes after this one. Like, comment, subscribe as usual. And I hope that you all are enjoying these. And I shall be moseying my way out. Bye.